Welcome to our pod, and by that I mean on Wednesdays we read. I'm Hannah.
I'm Laura.
And we are two best friends who usually do a deep dive into a new book series, one book at a time, except when we are on Intermission. Because this week we are still covering Revenge Arc, and we are three best friends because we are welcoming to the pod the author herself, Cat Voleur, the author of Revenge Arc, which we just spent 2 weeks on. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
We're so excited to have you on the podcast. It's always just such a joy when we can get the authors on after we cover their books. So thank you. Well, as it says on your website, Kat, you are passionate about all things horror, which we saw in this book, and you are the author of many works, including Puppet Shark, My Apologies to Tanya Grace, Normal Things, and of course, Revenge Arc, which is the discussion point today. So we really appreciate this, and I can't wait to read all of your works.
Honestly, like doing this interview, like I'm coming up with questions. I'm like, this feels very meta considering Revenge Arc and like knowing how Hannah and I have loved it so much. I'm like, are we the weird obsessed fans now? Is this a turning point for us? This is a little concerning, and it just felt interesting creating this after reading the book. But moving on, before we get started talking about Revenge Arc, can you tell us a little bit about you as a reader and a writer, maybe like favorite books or influences?
Yeah, as I try to read a lot of indie books, and I say try like it's hard. I've over the years read proportionately more and more indie books. So but like growing up, a lot of my influences are the same as everybody else's influences. I read a lot of Stephen King. I read a lot of Clive Barker. I read Alvin Schwartz's Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, and that, did a number, I think, on all millennials. So, but now I read a lot of, Eric LaRocca, and I I'm currently reading a book by Christy Aldridge. She writes just like really upsetting stuff. Uh,
what a recommendation. She just writes upsetting stuff.
She writes upsetting stuff. That's always like I tend to read. I think people that like have taken my book recommendations are always surprised by the stuff that I write, because I write a lot of more like abstract, off-page psychological stuff, or like weird formatted, I revisit this kind of work a lot, and people are always surprised like to read what I do after they take my book recommendations, because I'm always reading just like the most extreme stuff I can find. I'm like, how can you keep me up at night? 5 out of 5 stars.
That's amazing.
And I don't go that far usually.
It's nice to see, like, because obviously you're an indie horror author, but I feel like the things that we've seen the most in our experience with indie authors is like with the indie space, you get to play a lot more, and it doesn't have to be like very set rules like trad publishing. So it's nice to know that some of your influences now in this modern day is like other indie influencers or writers who are doing different things.
It's a big reason why I like sought out indie publishing specifically. Because I was like already reading more indie stuff, and I also wanted to play with just weird stuff that you can't really do commercially, I guess.
Yeah. Well, and even with this book, we know that from your acknowledgments, you created this during a Twitter 24-hour challenge, which is also very unique and also very indie author of you. Yeah, so amazing that you were able to do this. What inspired you to create Revenge Arc for this, 24-hour challenge, or like what helped you build this book?
This also came up just like I touched on it very briefly in the acknowledgments. It was my friend Ghost. I was co-hosting a podcast with her at the time, and we were just, messaging about stuff. And I brought up that I wanted to do a book that was kind of like a mixed media thing like this. And she got really pushy with me. She was like, you have an event coming up, like sit down and do it. And it's like, I don't know if that's like the best way to approach, because it was my first year doing the 24-hour novel writing challenge. And I was like, I don't know if this like really ambitious, crazy thing that I've been procrastinating for like my entire career is maybe the time to like crunch it down into 24 hours. And she was like, no, I want to read it. Do it now. Do it now. It's like, okay.
We really benefited from Ghost. Yeah, thank you.
Ghost.
Thank you, Ghost. The true hero.
Because I was scared. I was like really scared to do it. I'd been putting it off. Like I had the idea outlined for years and years before this is maybe the longest I've ever sat on an idea before I started writing it. Because I was scared. It was like, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if publishers will look at it. I don't think I could do it alone. And like if a publisher doesn't take it, it's just gonna sit on my desk. So
Mhm.
I was really scared to start this one, and yeah, Ghost peer pressured me like really aggressively, and I'm grateful for her every day. It's why she's in my acknowledgments.
Beautiful.
Well, thank you to Ghost. Well, I think pretty much anybody who frequents online spaces can relate to the format of Revenge Arc, but this specific fandom deals with a lot of things that I was unaware of. I was kind of wondering what kind of research you did to find out more about like red rooms and the other things mentioned in the book because I was too afraid to Google. So I'm going to let you tell me about the research.
Um, yeah, so it's again, I had it kind of outlined. Like the research was not prior, it was not like directly in front of me doing this. I was researching red rooms for a different project that I was working on back when I first started freelancing, like back in 2015, 2016. And I like one of the I don't get spooked easily. I got desensitized to that pretty young, like being in the horror space. And I think one of the like most unsettling experiences that I've ever had in my entire life was doing research for red rooms. And like you start out and you don't know how real they are or not. And like everybody's lying to you about it on the internet, and you're like hopping through different forums and trying to get like any kind of real information and trustworthy sources for these things without actually getting onto the deep web. And I think that was one of the most unsettling experiences in my life, doing like research for work on this topic in forums that I don't frequent at like 3 o'clock in the morning alone in the apartment. Like it was very unsettling. And I knew pretty much like I wrapped up the project and then I kind of kept reading because it's like I would really love if like I could give this unsettling experience to other people. Like they always say to if you're a horror writer to kind of share the scariest experiences that you have. And it was like I want to do that for other people, but I didn't really know how to get it across, you know.
You said
I
let's
mean,
have
you
a
did it
mention
quite
of
well.
you said
Because
let's
you're
have a
saying
mention
like I
of
was
cheese pizza, and Laura and Hannah will be like, I don't know what that is, but I don't think I want to.
it was like creepy pasta was mentioned. I'm like, I don't know what that is. Too afraid to Google. And I'm like, okay. But you saying like I was up at 3 a.m. on these chat rooms, like, no way, I see a new food, and I'm like, I could try that new food in the hospital parking lot just in case something goes wrong. Like, there's no way I would be doing this at 3 a.m. by myself.
It
This
was
is me
unsettling. It was like really spooky.
here talking to
Um,
huge scaredy cats in this chat right now. Because I could tell you the scariest thing I used to do was house sit for someone and they had a giant lake house and I would watch Criminal Minds until like 1 in the morning. And I was like, well, I'm too afraid to go to bed, so I have to watch another episode. Like,
um,
I'm wearing mostly pink. I can't I can't I can't do anything scary.
so a huge part of this, like we said, and like you said, was like mixed media. That's what we see through a lot of this. What was it like developing how you wanted to tell the story, and how did you plot this out with the various, like, archive of our own and Twitter and all these different things?
very frantically is the answer because I did it in 24 hours. It was like it was very easy because like I had been fighting about how I knew when I first started it, I was thinking maybe it could be a web comic because I wanted it to have a visual component. I did not trust my art well enough to like want to do a web comic. And I didn't know anybody in publishing like at the time, and I was like I don't really know if they're doing books like this. I was at the time I was working a lot in the creepy pasta space. So it was like I know that people do creepy pastas like typically on their own. I don't know if I could even collab for something like that. And I imagined it as like several different formats in my head where it's like I could tell it as like I think originally I had wanted to tell it as like a Reddit no sleep story,
Hmm.
because it's like that felt very authentic to the creepypasta community. And but then that didn't feel like quite enough. And I thought about it as like a podcast, you know, where it was like maybe I could record snippets of it could be like a channel somehow, and that felt so daunting, and I ended up like just putting it on the shelf for a while because it's like I don't know how to do any of that by myself, and I don't like I wasn't a name at the time. I didn't know how to get people involved in this, and finally like and then like the 24-hour thing, I it was like just a weird series of events that kind of reminded me that I had wanted to do this. And I thought about it a lot during the years. Like I had all of the plot points in my head, like very solid timeline. I knew what happened and where everybody was and stuff, but not like how to go about telling an audience how all of this happened. My friend started doing pre-made book covers, and just like posted the one that I ended up using for Revenge Arc. I got it on sale for like $13 and I was like,
Wow.
and it just like it felt like kind of a missing piece where I was like, you know, maybe she's querying, and you know, and it just like it was enough to remind me that I had been working on this. And then, you know, the 24-hour thing popped up and I was like, I don't really have anything outlined for that. Maybe I could do this like really ambitious. But like so I the plot points were like down really solid in my head because I had just been thinking about it for so long. And then everything else really was just kind of thrown together because I only had 24 hours to get like 50,000 words done. So it was just
Wow.
like, what can I steal from? What can I borrow? Like, how do we make this happen real fast?
That's amazing. So early on in the book, we see Riley, the main character, feeling frustrated with her role as a woman writing in the horror genre and how the industry just has different expectations for her. And I really appreciated this inclusion. Can you tell us why you felt that this was important to include in the book?
That was kind of a core theme of like the conception of this book for me. At the like I said, I was in the creepypasta space. I was doing a lot of like nonfiction. I was doing a lot of like horror specific journalism. I was doing a lot of like curation in the online horror space. And I was also at this point I was an adult, but I was like 20, 21. Like I was a young adult and I had a lot of anger issues still. Um, you can see the seeds of Riley like in past Cat because I was just getting mad about stuff. And I remember like I got an opportunity to do an interview about like some of my favorite horror movies and the ones that had influenced me, and I got a lot of blowback because I said that I liked Last House on the Left, and people were like unforgivable, like anti-feminist. And it was like, what? And then like I had and it was mostly women that like got on my case about this because they're like, you can't speak for all women when you say that you like these like really messed up movies. And I was like, I yes, I can. Like I'm not like speaking on behalf of all women every time I go like do a movie podcast, you know? Like I'm
Mhm.
not claiming to be a spokesperson for this. I'm like a movie critic with an opinion about like a really classic horror movie. Get off my case.
It's weird that they thought you were like standing like on stage somewhere just yelling, "I'm every woman." Like,
Yeah.
It
And it was
kind of
like it was the same when I did like short story reviews and stuff because like being in the indie space, you know, you get like a lot of really messed up fiction and stuff. And anytime I liked something, it was like and then there were also men who were weird about it too. Like I'd like a short story by a man and then he'd be like, "Well, this woman said it was okay to write about." And it's like I'm not like giving you permission here.
mhm.
I'm not I don't want to be the morality police. So that was a big core theme in the book because it's like I miss when art was like a unique experience to the individual and
yeah.
not, you know, cancelable.
Yeah.
We talk about that a lot on this podcast where it's like there are books that I think are quote unquote trash, but I still have the best time reading them. Or like
Yeah.
one of my favorite movies growing up was like He's Just Not That Into You. And like upon retrospect, I'm like, well, it's not the most feminist movie, but I had a good time with it. So like, you know,
Yeah.
uh
I prefer feminist masterpieces like Iron Man 3. So,
That was another one, if you can believe it. Like people, that wasn't like in the horror space. That was just like a personal take that I had where people were mad. They're like, "How dare you like Iron Man 3?" And it's like, I don't know, it was goofy. I
You
had
can
like
just
a
like a
beer and I
movie.
went to the theater and I had fun. Like, leave me alone.
It's a
That is
Christmas movie. Let us like Christmas things. Come on.
right.
Yeah,
Come on. Robert Downey Jr. is a gem sometimes. So,
yeah.
Yes.
well, and Riley is a really complicated character. You show a huge part of her public persona through these interview snippets, but then we also get into her private life and like some things that she's not willing to show, like her relationships with Michael or her mother. And we even see certain people's reactions to her personal life. What was it like kind of building out these pieces and bits of Riley and making her like a full-fledged character, mostly through other people's perceptions of her?
It was tough. I think because it was like I had Riley, I think I had just been thinking about her so long. When I had originally conceived her, it was like she was kind of like a ghost of Christmas future character for me, where it was like if I don't straighten out some of my anger issues, like I'm gonna end up alone and just like in an apartment with thousands of horror movies and like
And Tiny
giving
Tim is
angry
dead.
interviews on the internet. Tiny Tim's gonna die. And so she was like she had been conceived as like kind of more bitter, I think, than she was. And then, growing up, and then, I'm like almost Riley's age by the time I actually get around to writing the book. And it was like, I wanted her to be more nuanced, I wanted her to be, I wanted you to see that there was like a softer side to her, but I also didn't want to push it too far because it's like, I, she can't be perfect. And it was really hard to find that balance. It was one of the things my editor and I went back and forth about the most, I think. Um, and I think she was a little bit more likable even in like the rough draft. It's crazy to think I cut like 20,000 words out of this book
My
before I submitted
gosh.
it because it was a mess. But she had like yeah, I needed to be able to keep track of the timeline, so it was marked by a lot more like personal information to kind of pad out that word count for the challenge and make sure I knew where everybody was. And trimming it down, it was one of those things where it's like I think my editors wanted her to be a little bit more likable in the early chapters than she was. And I had to push back just like a little bit on that because it's like I want to see kind of this like public perception of her versus her more vulnerable moments. But it was tough,
I
It was
honestly
hard to
love that
do.
though, because you're like living out some of the things that Riley is honestly you telling us about this. I'm like, you are Riley Langdon.
It was it was unsettling and very meta. I think
Yeah.
Riley is I think you put like as an author you put a little bit of yourself into like every character that you do. But Riley she was not only how I was afraid I was going to end up, but like a lot of her projects that I used because I did have 24 hours were like abandoned ideas that I had for projects that like I never had the time to commit to and stuff. So like gut reactions were like that was like a thing I had been planning to do and had like written and ideas for and stuff. And it was very interesting to like kind of go through because I had written those, around the same time I had the idea for Revenge Arc and then like reformatting them for Revenge Arc by the time I had time to sit down and work on this. It was very interesting to be like, how would Riley have thought about this movie? And then also, how can I go through and make this like a fictional movie so I don't get sued? And like, it was one of the most time consuming parts of that rough draft was doing the gut reactions and being like, okay. But it was all of her like work were ideas that I had prior. So I do feel sometimes very connected to her in like this very personal work way. Even though we're different, like I had to go through and find her voice and edit a lot of stuff. And I would find myself sometimes slipping into like my voice and it's like we are different people. Like
I'm getting a little too close to this now.
It's
yeah,
in-
it
it's
was also too
incredibly
close.
meta and therapeutic to be like, I bet if I published this, this is how it would be perceived. Like that is
Yeah.
very fun.
Well, you play with storytelling a lot in Revenge Arc, and we see how layered it is and how powerful storytelling and our own perceptions of storytelling can be. Is storytelling a concept like Or is storytelling something that you want to focus on in your work as a whole, or is it more specifically a concept within Revenge Arc?
It was something that I definitely wanted to focus on in Revenge Arc, which is I did not know when I started working on Revenge Arc that I was going to be a writer, like at a professional capacity. I thought it was like a fun hobby. So I've ended up closer to it, I think, sometimes than I meant to. Um, but I it's really interesting because there's always that like write what you know thing, and you don't always like as a writer, I try to like step out of my comfort zone a lot. But while I was querying, like my first early books, the ones that got picked up were the ones about storytelling, and it's like it's probably because that's what I know the best,
Mm-hmm.
like those I'm sure are better on a deeper level because they feel more real. It's what I know, and it is a recurring theme in my work, mostly by publisher demand, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm hoping not to get like locked into that forever.
Sure.
I think that makes
I
sense.
mean, I love the whole like concept of storytelling and who is a good storyteller and what stories mean to people. So I'm all in.
Laura's like, I'm going to pick up every book about storytelling.
Yeah. And just all of
Well,
them in general.
something fun about this with the storytelling elements is we also get to see people's reactions to Riley's work, including in fighting. So was it fun to get to play around in this fictional space of like Reddit and Discord of people just screaming at each other?
It was that was one of my favorite parts. And it's something that I noticed when you guys were like covering this in the synopsis. It's feedback that I got really early on after publication too. The mod situation. And this was also something that like my editor and I I won't say went back and forth on, but it was something that like the first thing my editor flagged for this was like, where are the moderators in this Discord forum, Cat? And it was like it's so interesting because like I, I'm not on Discord a lot. I find it very stressful, and after writing this, I wondered if like am I stressed out about Discord because I'm in all of the like Wild West, no man's land, unmodded Discord forums. Like that was always my experience on Discord was like trying to reach a mod and they just are like busy with their own stuff. That's like so true to my experience. And then everyone that like gave me feedback about this was like, there should be more moderators here. And it's like, probably, right? Like,
You
I don't
said
know.
Riley's fans don't need moderators, and that's the problem.
Riley's fans self-moderate very poorly. That just that because that felt the most real to me. And that was actually I added the character of Maud. And we had a lot of jokes like in the um in the publication house for this. We were like joking about how Maud is like going through his third divorce and just doesn't have time for like any of this nonsense. He's like not reading headlines right now and looking for a new house and stuff. And it was an ongoing joke, like things Mod is doing other than modding.
He's probably on a juice cleanse or something like that and just feeling miserable.
I feel like if you really, really want to go meta, you could start a Tumblr about that. Where is Mod?
uh,
Well,
Probably, yeah.
another aspect of the book that I find really interesting is creator accountability. And we get to see the people in the book put a lot of people in the book put blame on Riley for introducing themes and events to that are in her comic to people and quote unquote inspiring them. And I was just kind of wondering, do you think that the way that people interact now, since we are so like online and everything via like chat rooms and social media, has changed the way that we look at creator responsibility or accountability?
I think so. I because and it was something that I thought about. It was a theme that I wanted to touch on like when I conceived of the book, and then it was a theme that I hit a lot harder when I actually was sitting down to work on it because I felt in the years between those two things that it had gotten more relevant. I think living in an internet era, there's a lot more like it's gone from like, oh, this book was, loosely this book was like on the table of someone who did something horrible, and there would be theories about it that would come out years later and stuff, to the very immediate, like, I see a connection between these two things and I'm going to blame the media for it.
Mhm.
And now you have a direct path to blame, like, whoever made the media. So it's like it feels like it's getting scarier to do work at all as a
I mean, even
creative.
when you think about just sharing articles and stuff like that, like it's an acknowledgement that you promote something. So like there's all these, like you said, all these ties to things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the good place calculator at the end of
Yeah.
the day.
Yeah.
So a lot of times in these interviews, we get snippets and reviews of cons. It's a ton of fun, and I know you do a ton of cons. We talked well during con season. Could you tell us about your experience and what they've been like, and how that played a role in Riley and even Mila's experience with cons?
So it's really interesting. I was in the con circuit for, like, anime conventions and comic cons and stuff as, like, a cosplayer, and my friend did Artist Alley. I stepped in for his colorist for, like, a con season, because I have like 6 years of art training that I never use. I don't like doing sketches. So I was
Oh,
like, I'll step in and I'll do color on, like, Artist Alley and stuff. And it, like, I was very in the con circuit while I was doing the outline for this. I was meeting a lot of, like, my favorite creepypasta creators at conventions and stuff. And that experience was so different than, like, the cons that I do professionally.
mm,
I don't want to say it's a regret that I have of Revenge Arc, because this does, I feel like, really capture that 2016 horror community. Um,
Hmm.
but the horror community that I have found, like, in publishing, has been so much nicer. I would not write horror stories about them. Like, it's been really nice. I've been doing horror cons for publishing since Revenge Art came out, uh, for, like, actually, I guess not that long. Because I was sick. I had long COVID when Revenge Art came out. I didn't do anything that year. But once I was, like, recovering, I immediately started doing cons so I could, like, go. This book sells a lot better when you can see it, you
mhm.
know.
Hmm.
But it's hard to get, like, shelf space at bookshops and stuff. So I hit the con circuit pretty hard. I've been doing that for about a year, and it's been, like, such a different experience than, like, Comic Cons. It's been so nice and, like, very welcoming, and I feel a little bit guilty for throwing, like, conventions under the bus in the way that I did in Revenge Arc.
I think they had good moments and bad moments.
Yeah. But Comic Cons are a lot more argumentative, I feel like, than, and I haven't been to one since, like, after lockdown. Maybe everything has gotten better in that regard, but I remember
I
getting into
mean,
a lot of fights at Comic Con. So
I mean,
seems like
things
people
getting
just argue
better right
more
now.
in general, so I would doubt it, but who am I to say?
the one thing that's gotten better is, like, the convention community, maybe. I
Yeah,
don't know.
we hope. We
The
hope.
optimism.
Something must have gotten better, right?
Specifically, horror book publishing conventions have gotten better. But no, it's very different, like, the experience that I was having then and that influenced Revenge Arc, than the experience that I have now, which
Good.
I'm grateful for. Like, I'm too old now to be getting into fights with everybody at conventions. So
Fair.
Well, in Revenge Arc, Riley really struggles with acknowledging her own success and creativity. And I think it was really interesting that this was the case, considering how creative this book was. And I was kind of wondering why it was important to you to include this aspect of Riley, that she's very insecure about herself and the ways that other people interpret her success and creativity.
part of that probably is because, like, when I did, like, a lot of the groundwork for Riley as a character, I was not successful. I would not I'd argue that I'm still not, like, that successful in, like, the grand scheme, like, compared to Riley, but like, at the time I really wasn't. And I was running, I was getting paid for my writing for the first time. I was starting to get, like, my first early acceptances in writing, and it wasn't even that like that was a part of her character that I wanted to do, but I did kind of want to illustrate while I was talking about creating and responsibility and the community and everything. There is always that internal struggle of like, I want to work really hard at this and I want to put everything that I have into this. And then also just there's kind of that sense that you always could give up at any moment, you know?
Mhm.
And it was something that I was struggling with a lot. I working on my own like blog, I was like just starting to get AdSense on my website and like starting to take those steps to monetize. And then, you know, like I got a job offer that paid better. And a part of that like doubt and decision making process, there's like that element of the path not taken there in
Mhm.
Riley's character where it's like I feel like having that opportunity and having someone like I was very lucky that I was getting validated for like reviews and getting paid and getting reimbursed for the stuff I was going to. Not a lot of people get that, and I was like I was so over the moon and it felt very validating. And but there was always that part of me that's like if I had done this on my own, you know, could I have made it something bigger? Could I have like poured more of my time into this? And then it's like probably, but I would not have had that validation, you know, I wouldn't have
Yeah.
had the constant like stream and the people, you know, sending me money and letting me know that I was doing good work. And that was like that was a really scary aspect for me. So I wanted it to be something that Riley was going through.
No,
I
I
love that.
think that makes sense and it's beautiful. Like it adds so much to the story
Mm-hmm.
because it was something you were
Yeah.
personally, attached to. So
Yeah.
it's lovely. Well, I mean, a lot of we haven't talked a ton about this, but a huge part of this is like the horror aspects of
Yeah.
this novel.
Mm-hmm.
I mentioned this in some of the plot episodes, but I kind of compared it to Jaws because there's always something like underlying and under the surface. There's this creator popping in and out, but we often don't see them, which
Yeah.
almost ratchets up the tension. And you even made a book called Shark Puppet, so you're well aware. Because the bad guy isn't really seen that often. Can you walk us through what it was like building the suspense of, this evil force off screen and then, not exactly seeing them even at the end?
It was it, this is like the biggest cheat code I think for anyone who wants to do like epistolary writing or have kind of a horror aspect where the villain is not seen on page very much. I had the villain on page for me. When I talk about chopping like 20,000 words out, a lot of it was like scenes that I knew probably would not be in the final book that were like, but I needed to know what was happening. And I think with any kind of convoluted timeline project, you, the author, need to know what's happening. And a lot of that for me, like I got to see more of Bruce, the yeah, to keep with the Jaws
Yep,
thing. You know,
perfect.
I got to see more of him than anybody else did, which I know was also kind of like that was Spielberg's experience too. Like the shark
Mhm.
was going to be in the movie more, and then it malfunctioned, and so like I went through and a lot of the 20,000 words, a lot of the editing process. I don't talk about this all the time because it makes me sound insane when I do writing challenges, but I do all of my rough drafts longhand. So like while I was typing this up, I just didn't type out the creator parts where it's like I think that for the audience not seeing the things that I'm seeing is going to be a lot scarier than seeing them.
I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I want to see them now, Val.
Yeah.
I'm fascinated to read
I'm
the
a little
what
curious,
what
but
was
I
Edward
guess.
Cullen's version of Twilight? We could do.
Yeah, the creator revenge arc.
Yeah.
I think if I could do like anybody's like Red's version of revenge arc was very nearly almost the book because like as I was prepping to do this and I wasn't sure if the epistolary thing was going to work or not. That was like the backup plan was just to like tell it as a novel. And I think that my plan was to frame it like more from that perspective just because that's where the most active horror is happening all the time. And I'm glad I didn't do that. But this was like I don't think I've ever been like so nervous about a project as I was like sitting down to handwrite a bunch of tweets for this book. Like that was That was an
I
insane thing
also
to
would
do.
imagine that would
That's
be
so cool.
incredibly frustrating to just like handwrite tweets. Like, oh my goodness, that's so hard to do.
Honestly, I think we would have a better universe if a lot of men had to write out their tweets
If they had
longhand
to take the
first.
time to handwrite them,
Yeah.
Oh,
they
could you
might
imagine the
reconsider.
threads? Like,
Well, this book has gained a bit of a cult following and fandom online, actually. There's like people talking about it on Reddit and everything, and other social media platforms too. And I was kind of wondering if that experience has reached you much yet, and what is that like considering the plot of Revenge Arc and how parasocial relationships are portrayed?
No, that's a new fear that is unlocking right now. No. It's I very much, and this is hard. This is like one of the hardest like day-to-day struggles that I have because I'm a reader, I'm an avid reviewer. Like I try to review everything that I read because I know that it helps the algorithm and stuff, but I have had authors be very weird to me about reviews. So like even, and this was before I was ever in the publishing industry myself. So I do always like I believe in that author review like balance for the most part. And I like with Revenge Arc, I made a very conscious decision where it's like I wish that authors would stay out of my review spaces. So as I become an author, I'm going to like as much as possible stay out of my review space. And it's hard. Like no one ever talks about how hard it is for authors to do that. Like you see authors failing to do that and usually like blowing up in some kind of inappropriate way. There aren't like a lot of good stories of authors in their review spaces. But I try to be really careful about the, you know, like if someone tags me in a review, I'm always like really happy to read it. Um, this podcast was like one of the first things I ever listened to about Revenge Arc,
we're
which
so
was,
sorry.
oh no, I loved
I
it. It was really
apologize.
nice. You guys were so nice to it. But I was like, going into it, I was prepared. I was like, they could hate it, and I'm going to go and I'm going to be nice, and I'm like not going to blow up, and I'm not going to let my feelings get hurt, and you know, like if they just hate it, because there is like mental preparation. So yeah, I don't see like a lot of the stuff that comes in about this book, and it's one thing that my editors have been like really, really good about because like they're busy. They have other people that they have to manage and stuff, but the publishing house is always like, if there's a really nice feature about Revenge Arc or we get like a really glowing review or something, they usually like blurb it and send it my way, which I really appreciate because like with my self-published books, I don't see any of that. It's just like the reviewers need their privacy, and if they want me to see it, they'll tag me. You know.
That's fair. No, that's really nice. I like that your publisher does that, that they're just like,
Yeah.
oh, let's check out this one. It's nice.
It's
So-
really nice. It's so sweet. I did not ask them to do that, but like I always really appreciate it when they take the time to like do stuff like that for me.
I work in HR and I am someone who like emails a manager and I'm like, on one of your employees' 60-day review, they said they really liked you. uh,
I'm that person to my cover artist. Like
oh,
whenever I'm
beautiful.
at conventions and people give me like feedback about my covers, I'm always like coming home and emailing the artists where it's like you got compliments on this thing at the convention and
I'm sure they're getting complimented all the time because I love
Yeah.
a lot of your covers. uh, so this book is a really stark look at obsession and huge spoilers ahead for anyone who hasn't listened to us talk about it or read this book, which go read it. The bait and switch at the end is so rude. It was a real revenge arc, which I feel like you hinted at with the name, and neither one of us was expecting.
I mean,
Was it?
we both said we were like, no, we don't want it to be true. And then we read Reconstruction Surgery and both internally screamed.
w- Do you feel, this is obviously a little bit of a sarcastic question, but do you feel proud pulling this on all of your readers?
I do. That was that's like one of my most, except for the thing about it is, and I was really careful like in the early promo for this book, when I did interviews and stuff like leading up to and just following the release, I was really careful not to like confirm or deny any theories, as it were, about the like canonical events of this book. And that was one of the hardest things. We were talking about reviews and like, you know, why authors should stay out of review spaces and stuff. One of the first reviews that I got for Revenge Arc was so funny because it was like the they were like, I really liked the setup. It was really good. The end just like was too happy for me. It came out of nowhere that this had a happy end, and I didn't like that. And I was like, oh. Maybe, and it was a moment of panic because it's like maybe this is just not gonna hit for everybody the way that I'm hoping it's about to hit, you know,
They
because
read an
that's
entirely different book.
they read something different than I wrote. I feel
That
like.
was a very big, like, plausible denial. But because I mean, like, when I was reading it, I was like, I mean, you could interpret it the other way. And I'm like, she literally talks about another woman sitting in a bed next to her. That wasn't happening. Hannah, don't lie to yourself.
Well, at
Like,
first, when I was reading it, I might have been able to have gotten pulled into that if you're not paying close attention because you start off and you're like, oh, she married the cop that saved her? Okay, come on. And then you read more and you're like, no, no, stop it.
Yeah, that was a big fear that I had. And it's crazy because like even my editor, that was a section, the epilogue, that we like cleaned up a lot. We did a lot of fine tuning there. For the most part, there were like 3 spaces in this book where we like went in and we fine tuned and stuff. But for the most part, it's like as I submitted it. And that was one that I got really self-conscious about because my editor was like he mentioned that he hadn't like picked it up on his first read through. So I was like, I volunteered. I was like, I want to go through and I want to like drop the hints and I want to find this balance that's unsettling for people. Like, let me take another crack at that epilogue. And he was like, yeah. And we actually went through like a couple different iterations of it and ended up more or less with like a cleaner version of what I had written the first time. But then like after getting that initial feedback from reviewers, I was like, I was really panicked that this book was just like not gonna hit right.
oh, I mean, I can't imagine the Riley that we met or in the journals marrying some officer with
Some like
Right.
random cop.
And she
taking his
marries
last
a
name.
cop,
Like,
and the
but I
woman
could
who is like
imagine.
very concerned about women in horror and their treatment in industry is like the patriarchy.
Sign me up. I did wonder if the woman who woke up in that hospital bed met Mr. Officer Dawson and was like, "Ooh, my initials."
Dawson. Yeah.
uh,
It's fun. I
uh,
don't remember what her I because it was like such a long time ago. I initially had like I was this is what it's like to write a novel in 24 hours where like you just start coming up with like crazy crack ideas like toward the end. And I was like I realized I could very easily slip that in. Where I was like, if I change her middle name, like the initials are going to be red, and this is going to be hilarious. And I like haven't slept all weekend, you know. I've got like pencils sticking out of my hair, like laughing maniacally. This is so
it's okay
funny.
because Red was in the book doing the same things.
Yeah,
Exactly.
If
it
I
got me in
marry
the right
him,
mind
my
space.
initials could be this.
Well, I know you mentioned that you cut a lot of things out of the book, but I know just from seeing some of the people chatting about Revenge Arc online that people would love to consume Revenge Arc in a longer form or something similar in a longer form. Could you see yourself returning to this story and its characters, or maybe like creating another mixed media book?
So I never like I always feel a little bit and my publisher is like so nice. They do not care. Like they always stand behind me when I do interviews and when I say like unhinged things about this book. But I there are 2 sequels to Revenge Arc written and I have debated a lot about whether or not like those are releasable or not because it's
They are.
like it's
You
it's
should
so
send them to
hard.
us. We'll give you a very unbiased perspective.
I haven't even seen them. I know it's fine.
There's like it's tough because like and this was something that like now I wrote them after like immediately after we were I don't even know if this book was out yet. I was like we were putting it together. Like it had been picked up and I had like bad COVID fever and I was like I want to do more. Like I've been thinking about this a lot and I want to write new stuff and I've got ideas. Like there's more story that happens in my like little internal timeline after this that I really want to like write down. And I did. And then it was like but the suspension of disbelief at the end of Revenge Arc is like such a tenuous balance already that it's like I think it would be really hard to keep that suspension of disbelief through 2 more books. Like and it's something that I went and Cormac, who owns Archive of the Odd, who did like all of the outrageous formatting for this book, he's always like, send them in. Like I'm willing to look at them, and it's like I don't know if they're like ready. I don't know if I want you to look at them,
Like I want you to be proud.
Yeah, like I want them to be good. Especially like the second one. Here I am talking about like sequel, but the second one is formatted like differently than the first and last one. Like it's like a sandwich. It's like a weird little epistolary sandwich, and it's like I don't even know if Archive would be interested in formatting something that's like that consistent because they do specialize in these like weird things. And I have all of the rights. Like Cormac also, he was like, if we end up not having time for this and you wanted to do more sequels, like it's in your contract, you can do more sequels. And it's like it's such a team experience though. Like I'd want
That's
everybody
fair.
to be on board. But yeah, there's definitely I play with the idea of letting other people see like the rest of because more stuff happens. Um like in the
Why
timeline in
would you
my
say
head.
that? More stuff
I
happened.
know more stuff happens.
But
Laura's
I'm
gonna
not going to tell
start.
you, and I'm just going to leave you hanging, possibly forever.
This is
Possibly
the most
forever.
contentious Laura's ever been with an author. Why would you say that?
I do worry about it though. Like I worry that people and then it's also they give you a piece of writing advice that you hear a lot in like creative writing classes and stuff where it's like don't write sequels if there isn't more story. And I feel strongly like there is more story. Like I don't feel like I wrote these just so there would be sequels. It's like I know that there's more stuff that happens and I kind of want to share that. But then there is that fear where it's like I'm a big believer in like if a book is good and well received, it maybe doesn't need sequels. And I'm like, there have been sequels from like some of my favorite authors that I have just flat out refused to read because it's
Yep.
like, what if it messes up the first one?
Yep.
I
Yep.
don't even remember what the name of it is, but there's like the sequel that came out to Practical Magic, and that was like one of my favorite
Oh yeah.
books in school. And I was like, I'm not gonna like read a second one because what if what if it ruins like
Right.
this perfect thing for me? And
Right.
I don't want to do that to I don't want to like wear it into the ground, which is always a fear.
Mhm.
Well, we would love to cover it when you decide if you want to publish it.
I don't
No
know if I'm
pressure.
satisfied with this answer, but
If I can get Archive to get behind me on another one of these, I will I'd be happy to send out because we did like it was really interesting because Archive of the Odd had never I done a book like this. Like they do a zine. They do like
Oh,
specialized formatting for zines. And they actually the query process was very interesting for this because I was sending it out to a lot of indie publishers and I was getting really great feedback on the early chapters. Everyone was like, yes, send full manuscript. And then I would send in full manuscript and they'd be like, we're not touching that formatting with a 10-foot pole. Please take it back. Like I was getting like rapid fire rejections for this. It was the shortest like querying time and I think the highest number of rejections that I've ever
wow.
received. Like it was a
wow.
crazy windstorm of a thing. No one wanted to deal with this. And I found this like little press that was like, we'll do serializations of like weirdly formatted stories if you want to send them in. But they were looking for something that was like 12,000 words. And at the time I was querying, this was like 32,000 words. And the Cormac's just like so nice and friendly. And I wrote him this email and I was like, I have a story that I think is like what you're looking for. It's speculative horror and it's weirdly formatted and it could be really good with this press, but it is longer than the serializations that you're looking for. And he was like, go ahead, send it over, like if it takes us 3 years to publish in like little chunks, we'll do it if it's good, if we like it. And I was like, okay. And while we were and he accepted it like pretty fast, like the team was really on board, they saw the vision. But then he wrote back and he's like, do you want to do this as serializations or were you like hoping that we would publish this as a book? And it's like, I would like it to be a book. Like, please and thank you. And he's like, yeah, I think that makes more sense than like releasing it in chunks, and it's like, thank you.
It's
But he
amazing.
it was like their first book and it was my debut, and we did like an arc run, but neither of us had the connections to be like, here's a new book that's coming out. Please read it and review.
Mhm.
So I think if we do a sequel, like I think we're both in a better position, like to reach out to podcasts and stuff. And you guys you'd be right on the list.
Thank you. Sign us
Don't
right
don't
You
feel
were
up.
like
so
I'm
nice to
pulling
this.
a Riley Langdon fan base right now. I think I've put some fear in you, and I
No,
mad
Kat's gonna
about
sign
that.
off and be like, that is why I don't talk to fans.
this is why.
She's like, send that over immediately so they leave me alone.
Uh,
Uh,
no, but
well,
like you guys were so nice that it's like it's a hard book to talk about, and I really appreciate podcasts that are willing to discuss it because it's I've also done this like as a reviewer. My like magnum opus review is like House of Leaves, right? Because it's like, how do you talk about this? It's insane. And I feel like I've done that to a lot of podcasts with this book. So
that's so funny because Laura's magnum opus for Hannah's reviews are any I hate. She really loves a long Hannah hated this book review. It's one of
Those are
her
my
favorite
favorites.
things to read. I really pick things apart. So, uh,
it's tempting
yes.
when you find something that you just don't like and you're like, it's not that I want to, be mad at other people for liking this, but I do want you to understand why I hate it.
Mhm.
I am a very big, like, I think everyone has a right to their opinion, and I think my taste is my taste. And so some people can like my taste and other people can disagree. But if I really dislike something, I need to prove that I had a right to dislike it. So
Yeah.
I will
Hannah very
go
much
down that
is not
hole.
someone who's going to try to influence you, but she needs you to understand her point of view. Like she's like, you don't have to be on my side, but you have to know why I'm on this side.
You have
And
to get
I
it.
really like that in her reviews.
That is very much my energy. So my worst fear is someone being like, but I don't understand where you're coming from. And I'm like, but if you just understood me, like, uh, well, that's amazing. We, as you know, both love Revenge Arc. We're practically begging you for a sequel. But your works are not limited to Revenge Arc. Can you tell us about some of your other books? What listeners should pick up if they really enjoyed this one?
If you really enjoyed this one, I do like so the Revenge Arc sequels are kind of dependent on, my state of mind and the team state of mind. But I do have other things in the works. Like after this experience, this was such a good experience. I moved into formatting,
Mm.
which I now like as a professional formatter, I feel like I always have to tell people I didn't do Revenge Arc. Like I wrote it, but I was not like the team of people that did the formatting there. But one reason why I picked it up is because I do really like writing epistolary books, and I wanted to make sure that like if I keep writing epistolary stuff that someday I'll have the capacity to publish more stuff like this. Um, and you can see in some of like over the last year, some of my works have been like working me up to that stage. I'd recommend Mon Amour to people because it is like it was my first like can I format stuff weird on my own. It's a single text conversation between like two people and it's all done in the text bubbles, which is now a thing that
Oh.
I kind of play with a
Mm.
lot. I curated an anthology called Sincerely Departed that is stylized epistolary formatting, so it has kind of that same like it's pulled from like tweets and letters
Beautiful.
and stuff. It is not anywhere near as pretty as like, the full and I do always kind of recommend that people pick up like the paperback of Revenge Arc because it is I don't think the
That's
ebook does it justice.
You
I know, I'm
literally
jealous.
heard,
I
you
read the
listened to the
ebook.
episode, and like the first thing I said was like, "Hey, Laura, I think we need to buy the paperback."
Um, and then, if that's not, you know, this is a format that I really love, that I feel really passionately about, that I know the press feels passionately about. It is overwhelming for a lot of people. A lot of the people who don't walk away with Revenge Arc at cons are like, this is really intimidating, or, like my ADHD would hate this, or, which I understand, because there are some things that just don't work for me. Um, my apologies to Tanya Grace is also epistolary, but it's like much more standard epistolary. Like it's a single like journal entry that goes on in real time. Um, And I do other stuff. I do like normal formatted stuff. I feel like it doesn't get the same amount of attention. And part of that's my fault because I'm always like, please look at how pretty this is formatted.
You're just excited
Like,
about it.
I just want to show people. But yeah, like the Desert Island game, if you just like don't like epistolary stuff, that is a very surreal, normal formatted book. And I do short stories now. I've been working in film novelization, which has been a lot of fun because it's just I like taking on new things that I've never done before. Um, and yeah, that's pretty much what I'm up to. They say like the correct answer, people always ask as an author, like as a creative, people are always like, what's your favorite book that you've written? And I know that the correct like salesperson-y answer is none. They are all my children. I love them all equally. But like my favorite is Revenge Arc. I I don't get to collaborate like this very often. And it wasn't just like, it's not just me that I'm proud of for this one. Like we hired artists and I know the editing team put their all into it. We were having contests in the like emails and stuff to see who had the prettiest handwriting to like do the notes and stuff. And we invented a font and just like
Speaking my
I'm so
language.
proud of the whole team like for this. So
Well,
Amazing.
that's amazing. And I'm so glad that it was like such a collaborative effort that was really successful because this is such a great work. Like we love it so much. But Kat, can you tell our listeners where they can find you in your works?
Yeah, you can find me on Blue Sky and Instagram primarily. Cat Voleur, Catvoleur, because I know I have a weird French name. And then I'm on Facebook periodically, usually just for formatting stuff, but I'm trying to get better about checking messages on there and posting news. And then my website, catvoleur.com, is where you
Awesome.
can find all of my stuff. So
Love to see it. And can you tell our listeners what you're reading, watching, and or enjoying right now?
yes. So this is like the most on-brand answer possible for this book, but I found an extreme horror movie challenge for Halloween season that I'm working my way through. I just new disturbing stuff every day. Love to say a disturbing number of them have been rewatches for me, which is it explains a lot. Um yeah, like just yesterday was Martyrs. I got to rewatch Martyrs, which I don't think anyone should ever rewatch, but I do it a lot. Um, movie's very messed up. And then I'm watching my partner is actually watching Buffy the Vampire Slayer for the first time through.
Same.
Hannah's been
Yeah,
rewatching.
no, well, I am actually, it is actually a first time through. So this is, yeah, same.
I grew up watching that show. I watched it like nonstop all the time. So it's been a lot of fun for me to revisit like next to him and I get his live reactions to stuff. Um, that's been a lot of fun. And I'm currently reading, I just started Boo by Christy Aldridge. She did my cover. She does my covers for the
Okay.
most part. And she does I brought her up in the beginning because she wrote like one of the most upsetting things I've ever read. And I've been saving like her book for closest to Halloween because it's like
Oh,
I know it's gonna upset me.
that's amazing.
I'm prepared.
I love that all. We want to thank you again for coming
Yes.
on.
Thanks
Again,
so
this is
much.
so hard to just be emailed out of the blue and be like, want to come on after we talk about your book for 2 weeks. We really appreciate it. We loved it so much. So
It was
thank you.
amazing.
I'm so glad. Thank you guys so much for having me on and covering the book. And I'm really glad you liked it.
We loved it. We're definitely not even saying
I'm
that. We just
waiting
really
for
enjoyed
the
it.
email of the sequel.
Laura's ready to accost you and be like, where is it?
I'm gonna
This
start a
is my
petition
origin
for
story.
This is Laura's revenge arc, everyone. Well, thank you
People
so
listening are
much.
like, wow, Laura's awful now.
Well, thank you so much. You are welcome back anytime to discuss the sequels or any other book, but
Yes,
we really just
absolutely.
appreciate it.
And
thank
listeners,
you
you can
so
find
much.
us at our pod
on all the
.com.
social media platforms, ourpod.com, OWWR pod on Blue Sky, TikTok, and Instagram if you so choose. And, keep an eye out for us. Next week, we are covering fanfics of Taskmaster. So please tune in for that as we get ready for our new season coming soon. So thanks, everyone. And we hope you enjoyed this year's Indie Mission. Bye.
Bye.